Greetings and welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. I'm Phyllis Hollis, your host. As an extension of my Instagram page, Cerebral Women, this podcast offers insights into the visual art world. I interview artists, mainly artists of color and female artists who will freely articulate what inspires their creativity. In addition, you'll hear interesting perspectives from dedicated art professionals who work with artists and the art institutions that feature them. I'm confident that collectively, these individuals will indeed stimulate your mind as they do our eyes. Please know these interviews are conducted in my Manhattan apartment, so please forgive the background sounds of city life. Welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. This episode features Michaela Yearwood-Dan. Throughout paintings, work on paper, ceramics, and site-specific mural and sound installations, she endeavors to build spaces of queer community, abundance, and joy. Michaela's work has been shown at the Contemporary Arts Center in Cincinnati, Ohio, the Scottsdale Museum of Contemporary Art in Arizona, the Green Family Art Foundation in Dallas, Texas, Palazzo Monti in Brescia, Italy, and the Museum of Contemporary African Art in Marrakesh, Morocco, among others. Her work is in the permanent collections of the Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden in Washington, D.C., Institute of Contemporary Art in Miami, Florida, the Crocker Art Museum, Sacramento, California, the Jorge M. Perez Collection in Miami, Florida, and the Columbus Museum of Art in Ohio. In 2022, she produced her first public mural installation for Queer Circle in London. She has participated in a range of fellowships and residencies, including the Palazzo Monti Residency in Brescia, Italy, the Bloomberg New Contemporaries in partnership with Sarah Bond, the Lee Alexander McQueen Foundation, London in the United Kingdom. In December of 2023, Michaela collaborated with Dior, contributing to the 8th edition of the Dior Lady Art. Michaela received her BA from the University of Brighton, and she currently lives and works in London. Enjoy this episode featuring Michaela Yearwood-Dan. Michaela, welcome to my podcast. I am really looking forward to this conversation.
Me too.
When did you discover your artistic passion?
I think for me it was something that was always there. Creativity felt very much part of my youth. I was always drawing, painting. It would always be, when you'd have the choice on like those kind of fun days in school, what thing you got to take part in. It would always be something art-based, something creative-based that I would do. I think it's always been part of me.
Early on when you were young, was there a particular artist that influenced you, or painting or sculpture that influenced you?
I mean, when I was very small, I think I just enjoyed making. I think there really wasn't anyone specific. And then as I got older, I became familiar with the YBAs over here in the UK. So Christopher was really the most prominent artist that I can think of the top of my head. Him and Sarah Lucas were the ones that sort of stood out to me as people that I was really inspired by. But, when I was young, I just really wanted to make more than focus on what other people had done in the past. I just really wanted to get lost in the process of actually making something.
When did you start leaning towards abstraction versus figurative?
I think there was always a part of me that was really interested in abstraction, but through kind of school curriculums and I suppose being a Black female, it felt like figurative work was the way that I had to express whatever was going on in my mind. But I always kind of wanted to steer away from it, I think from the very beginning, because I found faces tricky. And I hated the amount of time I would spend over trying to get things perfect. And then I would lose all interest in whatever the story was that I was trying to convey. And I was always really interested in fashion and textiles. So I think it feels quite natural that I was then drawn towards something which is so focused in the materiality of what you're making. And I think that came into its own in its realization that that's what I wanted to do during my BA. Although I feel like I was still steered and pigeonholed towards making figurative work. So my graduation body of work was figurative. And then as soon as I was able to be away from an institution, I started making abstract work.
I was curious. I was going to ask you how your art professors impacted your work and your practice.
I had a really good art technician and a really good sort of early, I think my first and second year tutor, Mikey Cuddy, who's also an artist, and she's an abstract artist, so she was very comfortable with me expressing myself in whatever way I felt comfortable in. And the technician was really good at teaching me how to work with materials in a very successful way that I knew how to really explore my practice through that like technical form of like mixing mediums and painting in that really traditional way. But I do feel like my tutors really didn't get any of the conversation that I wanted to speak about if it wasn't figurative. I mean, the other remaining tutors who were mostly all white men. And yeah, I felt forced into making work that was very literal, very figurative, because it was the only way I was going to get the top results that I wanted to get.
Can you comment on how representation is defined or measured in your work?
I struggled with this a lot actually when I was moving from figurative work to abstract work, and that was, it was a while ago, and it was before anyone really, was paying significant attention to anything I was making. And I realized that really and truly, if I'm putting myself into the work, which I do, my work is very diaristic, it's very personal, that it will always be representative to all of those communities which I belong to and feel like I belong to. My work is inherently Black, it's inherently queer, it's inherently female and femme. And that's simply because I made it. And because they're being made by the hands and by the mind of a person who subscribes to all of those signifiers. So therefore, that's what it is. And it always reminds me of like when I was younger and I would meet Black people who were really into anime, and I was just like, wait, are you allowed? Like, are you like allowed to be into this? Like that's, and I remember just thinking like, wow, that's really cool that, you can be, and it'd be like, friends of mine, like whole groups of like Black guys and girls just like talking about anime. And I remember like, wow, is anime Black? Has it got Black representation? But I think it's just like, because it felt so different from everything the culture kind of directly assigns to you, that you don't feel like maybe you can access it, but there is still so much like representation within that community of people who enjoy the thing. Same with different art forms and different ways of having a creative outlet and things we enjoy.
When you're working, do you think about who your audience is?
Yeah, quite often. Yeah, a lot really, actually. I do think about like who they are and who I'd like them to be. And I had my show in New York, and I think a lot of it is that kind of idea of like expectations versus reality. And I think, if I worked in this area, I'd be coming to see exhibitions on my lunch break. So I kind of build my show around like maybe like 3 different types of people I would like to enjoy the show, creating spaces which are perfectly fit into a lunch hour where, it was a room where there was a sound installation that played every hour, and instead of it being on the hour, it was the half past the hour, because I just thought most people, if they were coming on their lunch break, would like to catch a beginning of something, and usually that would mean that's when they'd get there. And that was kind of me thinking of those people and thinking of having seats in the space so there are places for people to rest, and encouraging that process to whilst in viewing the work, the process of being able to rest and take time out. And, I think of small people in terms of like children and things that they can read towards the bottom of the piece of work. I do think about the audience quite a lot, and I think about varied versions of who the audience could be. For me, it's very important.
When do you know work is finished?
When when the deadline is nearing. Sometimes it just has to be finished. It really varies. It feels like sometimes I have to tell myself something is finished without doing like my natural sort of checklist of a few things that I do. Like I have this thing of like, is there enough embellishment? Has it got text? Has it got this? Has it got that? And sometimes I have to tell myself that it doesn't need to have all of those things for it to be a fully resolved piece. But it's hard. It's difficult. But, often it really is when I just feel like I need to move on to the next thing. And I think if I sat with, I would say about 50% of the paintings that I've put out in the world, if I had them back in the studio, I would find something different to do to them.
When do the titles enter the creative process?
Sometimes during, sometimes in it'll vary between very early stages of the painting, or I heard something and I would have written something down and I would think that would make a great title. I keep like notes in my phone constantly, and things will be in bold where I think they'll make a great show title. There'll be things in italics that I think will make a great title of a work, and things that I think will be like interesting text to embed within the work, or like an idea that I should, kind of think about further. And sometimes the titles come really close to the end, and other times they come because the shipping people are on the way to the studio. And I need to title some works before they go out. And I quickly scramble, will open up a few poetry books and stick on some music and pick out some lines that I think can relate quite well to the work. But yeah, it varies. I think everything always varies with me. Sometimes it is a little last minute scramble. I could have worked on a piece for a month on and off, yet somehow the title would never have come to me and I'd be super happy with how it turned out, but I just haven't thought about what it will be called when it goes out into the world.
And are you listening to music while you're working?
Always. I mean, between music and podcasts, but I think it's for different stages of how I'm working. Like when I'm doing ceramics, it's usually reruns of a TV show or a podcast. When I'm really starting a painting, when I'm like really involved in like my whole body in the work, where I'm doing big brush strokes and I'm not really in the detail parts, it'll always, more than likely, always be music. And then when I'm getting in a bit more detailed, or I'm sitting at the painting on a chair, I'm very close to the surface of the canvas, then that's often when podcasts come into play. But I always like to have something on.
You mentioned ceramics. What is your opinion on ceramics being considered fine art?
So I definitely think that ceramics should be considered fine art. I think the thing is with the idea of fine art, it's really about intent and concept more than it is about the actual physical skill set that is being put in place. If you, as the practitioner, has like a wider idea as to why you might be making this object that is for it to be looked at or interacted with in a less sort of practical way, I think then of course it's fine art. But I think people, especially when it comes to ceramics, the same with lots of textile work, it's something which feels quite traditionally female in some places, in some context, shall I say, and therefore people kind of kind of view it as this outsider art because anyone can do it. That's something that I love about it, is that anyone can pick up clay and make something from it. It's such like a useful material that anyone can do the same thing with a paintbrush. I got some rooms in my house painted recently, and I thought, wow, what a skilled practitioner. Look at these straight lines, and this like everything is like done so perfectly, and I just think, wow, I couldn't do that, but I could do that, but like with great difficulty. And the same, I think the same with what I do. I'm sure they wouldn't find that easy, and I think it's all about the reasons why the person is making the thing or using that material. So I think it's great that ceramics is being considered fine art, and it should be, and it should have always been. The same with a lot of textiles work and collage, and I don't know, people love to just try and make art more highbrow than it needs to be. Everyone just needs to relax.
Do you feel Black art can be defined?
It's art made by Black people, yeah. For me, that's how Black art can be defined. I don't think you have to necessarily look at a work and see it and know that the person, the artist who made it was or is Black. But I think anything that is made at the hands of a Black person is art. Like that, that is art, is Black art. I don't think it has to look a certain way or speak on a certain subject. Black art is so multifaceted, and that's simply, to me, what defines Black art.
What are you excited about right now?
I mean, in life, I feel I'm quite excited about Christmas for the first time in forever. I just moved into a house and I'm very excited to celebrate it here. I'm excited to find a bit more of a balance with work and life. I think it's been an ongoing process to figure out how to keep up a workflow and also have a social life, a happy home life. And I'm excited about really figuring out that balance. And I feel like I'm doing it slowly but surely. But that's what excites me. I would say there's other projects coming up this year, but like they're all great and they're all amazing, and I'm of course excited about them, but they're not the thing that comes to mind straight away. It's about finding out this balance.
What do you enjoy most about being a visual artist?
Enjoying most is just like actually getting to make. For the past 2 months I was basically working on a whole body of ceramic works, and last week I was watching a bunch of other artists in their studios on YouTube, and I just had this enormous urge to paint on a canvas. and I was just like, wow, I want to switch this up right now and do something different, but I had this deadline to meet, and I just felt so excited about making. And I think that's what I think is most exciting. And that's the thing I like the most about the work I do, is that I get to do that. And
if you weren't a visual artist, what other career path would you have chosen?
I would always be something that was creative, something that I could use my hands in. I always think that I'd probably teach, but I would want to teach outside of a conventional sort of school setting. And I'd probably want to work with children or young people. That's something I think I would definitely be doing, running classes and workshops and building like a young community of creative people. I think that's what I would want to do.
How do you keep learning?
I guess by keep on asking questions. How can I do that? How is that made? How is that done? And also being audacious. Just thinking and having the complete audacity to think that I can figure it out and can do it. Someone asked me this week what I was going to wear for my wedding, and I was just like, we've got the registry and we've got the main day, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to make my dress for the registry. And they're like, oh, I didn't know you can make clothes. And I was like, I can't. I've never made a garment before, but I've sat with a lot of people in my family. I sat with them and watched them do it. So, I'll figure it out. I can do it. I'll do it. And I think that's how I learn. It's like being curious and also just having the audacity and also listening, like especially when I think on like a socio-political level, you just got to listen and figure things out and ask questions and be open to the giving and receiving of information.
What's your process like of choosing colors?
I try with my whole heart to not use pink. I try with my whole being to not use pink. Pink, green, and blue. I feel like I enter every painting before it's started and I think, I'm not going to use pink, green, or blue in this one. And then I just look at it and I'm just like, it's dead, it has no life. What is this? And then I add in a bit of pink and I'm like, wow, there it is. There it goes. My process with colour is just more is more. Like, why not? I love colour. I think colour is one of life's great joys, is colourful work. I even love when things are... I think I love texture. I love, even like if they're monochromatic, I love kind of like looking at what hues built this color. Like if it's like a greeny blue versus like a grey blue and all of them together, I just think they're great. And sometimes it'll be just straight from my mind. Sometimes I'll look at books, and I've got, several books on nature and lots of floristry books as well. So I'll kind of look at the composition of colours within a bouquet. Then they've got like a few kind of like, more traditional, more like scholar-based colour theory books where people would have John Albers, and there's this little Japanese one which I think most painters have, a little colour dictionary where, if you're feeling stuck but there's one colour I specifically want to use, I'll flick through and see how, one of these guys have paired it up with, 3 or 4 other colours and build a composition from that. I just love colour.
I've really enjoyed our conversation. And this is our last question. What do you feel is the purpose of art? And as an artist, what is your role?
I think the purpose of art is to enjoy and inspire and to provoke question. But then at the same time, I do think that the enjoying part for me feels a bit more important than the asking question part sometimes. At this stage of my life, maybe. I think it's very important that people can see something and enjoy it and not feel pressured to have to explain why they enjoy it, why they like it, and just get to feel free and true in themselves, that it's something that they just like. And I think the role of an artist is to live and create authentically. And that can be from just making really beautiful colour-filled paintings, or that could be from really interrogating the world through a political meaning through their work. But I think it is just about putting forward your most authentic self and feeling free and safe to be able to share that. I think weirdly people put a lot of pressure on artists to speak for whole communities, but I think the reason why artists and how artists have always existed is kind of being on the outside of things, looking in, kind of creating from that place. I don't know, maybe I'm just waffling. But yeah, that's what I think. Just to make.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts. I've really enjoyed this interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you for listening to Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. For additional content, please visit cerebralwomen.com and be sure to follow Cerebral Women on Instagram.